What's going on YouTube? It's Dominick Arena, aka the GOAT, back with another DGA Live, and I wanted to talk to you guys about a brand new monitor I picked up. This right here is the Samsung Odyssey G5 gaming monitor, and I wanted to do a video talking about pros, cons, and then at the end of the video I'll give you guys my overall conclusion on it. So just kind of break it down real quick. Let's talk specs real quick. So this is the 27-inch. It's a 27-inch 1440p monitor. It has a 1 millisecond response time and a 144 hertz refresh time. It has a 1000R curve, which I will show you guys that here in a minute. And it's got two inputs. It's got HDMI 2.0 and DisplayPort. There is a USB port on the back, but it is for firmware updates only. It does not power a hub or anything like that. So what is this guy? This is basically the budget monitor of the Odyssey series. We have the G5, which is the little brother to the G7, and the G7 to its bigger brother, the G9. But it comes in at a very affordable price. These are going for $299, and I was lucky enough to grab one on Prime Day for $260, and they sold out in 7 minutes. So extremely ecstatic on that, but there are a handful of cons that I want to talk to people about, because there's mixed reviews on YouTube and on the internet. Now let me just pull this up real quick. The big brother, the G7, let's talk about that for a second. That is a $700 monitor. You jump to the G9, you're talking $1,700. So there's a huge price difference between the three. We go from $300 to $700 to $1,700. So, of course, Samsung had to make some cutbacks. So let's talk the good first. So the good is 1440p. Now, keep in mind, I am filming this in 1080p at 30 frames a second, so you're not going to see what I see in person as far as resolution goes, or as far as frame rate goes. The most I could do right now is 30 frames with this camera. But so one of the pros is 1440p. That's what I wanted to get. That was my big step up. I'm currently coming off of a 1080p 27-inch monitor. 144 hertz, 1 millisecond response time. But I sit literally about 18 inches away from the screen. So 32 is too big for me because I find myself kind of panning my head to see the whole screen. Or 27-inch, when I'm up, I'm sitting a little far behind because I'm behind the camera. But when I'm sitting right here and I'm typing and I'm gaming, 27-inch is perfect. Now, if you're a 1080p guy, I recommend no bigger than 24. Because when you sit as close as I do, you could start to see pixelation on all the outer edges of characters, outer edges of, terrain and all that stuff. Because you're so close, you can actually pick out the individual pixels. Going to 1440p at this size is perfect. You get that pinpoint accuracy, all that good stuff. Second plus is the 1000R curve. This is the most extreme curve you could currently buy. My other monitor was curved, but it was an 1800R curve. So if you're coming from a flat monitor to this, it may take you a little bit to get used to. If you're coming from an 1800R curve to this, it's definitely noticeable. If you're coming from a 1500R curve to this, you may not notice the big difference. Now let me show you guys the curve. I'm going to pick up the camera here and try to give you an idea of just how curved it is. There's kind of showing you the extreme of the curve. Here's the curve on my 1800. It's definitely curved, but not as pronounced as the Samsung 1000. You could just see that. Look at that. That puppy is super curved. Now, when you play in the dark like I do, I usually have only RGB lighting on, excuse me. You get a little bit more immersed into the game, which I definitely love. That's a huge selling point to me, is this curve. I got all the lights on for filming purposes today, but it's definitely a plus. Now, I don't recommend this monitor if you like to use it for work purposes. If you're going to run an Excel spreadsheet and have one over here and then one over here, the curve in this area is a little hard on the eyes if you're trying to read fine text. This is mainly set up for multimedia video and for gaming, okay? The third big pro is price. $299, $260 if you can find it on sale. And it does have HDR10 compatibility. Now, this is kind of a pro and a con, and that's how we're going to start with that. This is not true HDR10. If you go to Samsung's website, you go to Amazon, it says HDR10. If you're used to watching movies on your big screen in HDR10, HDR10 is 1,000 nits. This is not HDR10. This is actually HDR 600. The HDR on this is just okay. The reason why they're saying it has HDR10 is because it will be compatible with HDR10 products like the Xbox One. So I have my Xbox hooked up HDMI, and I have my PC hooked up DisplayPort. When I turn on the Xbox and turn on the HDR10, it recognizes it. And it does do HDR content through the HDMI port off my Xbox. Here's the downfall. The DisplayPort that's on this unit is 1.2. Where on its bigger brother, the G7 and the G9, it's 1.4. So what does that mean? Basically, you're still gonna get 1440p at 144 frames per second. I've achieved that, no problem. I'm gonna show you guys some gameplay here in a second. That's not the problem. The problem is 1.2 DisplayPort does not have the proper bandwidth to do HDR. I've tried it on a couple games and it just doesn't work. It doesn't allow me to turn it on. If I dumb the game down to 1080p and stretch it to fit the screen, then I can achieve HDR. Problem is I'm losing my resolution. I didn't buy this monitor to play games in 1080p. I bought it to play in 2K. So that's kind of a con right there, is if you're looking to get HDR content, and the HDR content's not even that great on this monitor. There are better monitors out there that do HDR way better. This just happens to have it, which is a plus, but don't buy this monitor if that's your main thing you're looking to get. There are better monitors out there. Now, everything works fine. I'm getting 144 frames per second in 1440p on games like Fortnite, Rocket League, Gears, the whole 9 yards. I'm getting that with my graphics card. Now, the Big Brother G7 has a sticker down in the corner that says it's G-Sync compatible. This doesn't say anywhere on the website, nor does it have a sticker that says G-Sync compatible. Some people that have this monitor, I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit to show you guys, said it is. I have not been so lucky. If I could click and I go to my NVIDIA control panel, and I'll zoom in on this, and I go let's take a look. Hold on, let me find it here. Just video color settings, that's all good. Change resolution. Set up G-Sync there. I don't know why I couldn't find it. Okay. If I go up here, apply following changes. Enable G-Sync, G-Sync compatible. Enable for full screen mode. Select the display. There's the Samsung right there. And then I hit enable these settings. Right here. This is what I wanted to show you guys. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm trying to get this in. It says the selected display is not validated as a G-Sync compatible. So I don't know how people are saying that this monitor is G-Sync compatible, because I have not been able to get it to recognize it in G-Sync. But not a deal breaker for me, because if I was looking for G-Sync compatibility, I would have definitely made that an option when purchasing. But it does have AMD FreeSync, and I want to show you guys something here, because this is another pro and a con. So hold on, we go to the menu here, and let me see if I can get a little bit of a zoom in there for you. Okay. As you can see, the monitor is recognizing 144 Hertz, and I have AMD FreeSync on. When AMD FreeSync is on, the monitor performs great. I have no ghosting issues, I have no artifacting, I have no screen tear, nothing. Hence why I'm not that disappointed it's not G-Sync compatible. Very rarely do you find a G-Sync compatible monitor under 300 bucks. But when you're in this mode, what they don't tell you is when FreeSync is on, the best response time I'm getting with FreeSync on is 4 milliseconds. That is not a deal breaker to an average consumer like myself. I'm not disappointed about that. Your TV probably has a response time of 14 milliseconds. If you have a badass TV, maybe 9 milliseconds. So going to 4 milliseconds response time is not a deal breaker. Now, if you're a competition gamer, you may look somewhere else. In order to achieve the 1 millisecond response time, sorry, this keeps timing out, is you have to turn FreeSync off and change the refresh, turn this off. It'll black your screen out for a second. And then, look, I lost my colors too. Change your response time to fastest. By doing that, I developed more problems than it was worth. This is how you get the 1 millisecond response time, is by changing the response time to its fastest setting. What I noticed was, I noticed some color blur. I noticed some light artifacting, especially in the reds. You're not going to see it on this image because it's a still, but when there's moving pictures, you will see the artifacting happening in the reds. And a little bit of screen tear. To me, it wasn't worth the response time. So for me, I recommend that you keep FreeSync on. And just look, look at that. Well, now it's going back to my settings. So another thing too is, here, let me back this up a little bit. Another thing too that you lose on this particular model, which is not a deal breaker, is there's no RGB lighting. So that's something, they have to do some stuff to cut costs down to get this monitor from $700 down to $300. So this area down here on the 700 usually lights up blue in both corners, and then on the back of the unit there's a like a blue turbine that has RGB lighting that you could change the colors. This doesn't have that. This is just a plain Jane standard frame, all that other stuff. Now, another thing I want to say is a con is the stand. There is absolutely no adjustment to this stand except to tilt it a couple degrees. You can't raise it, you can't lower it, you can't 180 it, you can't turn it this way, nothing. It is fixed right here with a tilt. That's it. So that's kind of a disappointment because I had my MSI was fully adjustable and I could do all kinds of stuff with it. It does have a little bit of a bigger footprint. Let me show you the stand it's on. You can see how big that is compared to the tiny one on the MSI, which means I had to get rid of my gaming mat because otherwise that sat on the gaming mat, which caused it to rock because it was lifted up here. So it is a pretty big footprint, so keep that in mind when purchasing this. Another thing too is out of all the G series, the G5, 7, and 9, this is a VA panel. Me personally, I like VA panels, so this was good for me. I did not want a TN, and IPS would have been great, but IPS comes with a cost. So for those who are not familiar with the 3 different types of panels, and we're not going to talk about OLED or quantum dot, because Samsung does have that on their panels too. We're not going to talk about that. When you're talking about the 3 panels that are out for monitors, you have IPS, VA, and TN. TN is going to give you the best performance, best refresh rates, best response times, but you're going to sacrifice color accuracy and viewing angles. So if you ever see one of those monitors where you stand up and you look down at it and it's all yellow, you go to the side, it turns pink, and then it turns blue over here, that's usually a TN panel. IPS is the exact opposite. IPS struggles to perform as good as TN, but gives you the best viewing angles and the best color production. VA, which this is, smack dab in the middle. That's why I like VA panels. Better color and contrast ratios than TN, but better performance than IPS at a cheaper cost. So yeah, it's a preference thing. I know most competition gamers play with TNs because of how accurate they are. And then somebody that's doing photo editing and stuff like that is probably going to use an IPS. But another thing too is, one thing I do have to give it a pro on is very little bleed in the corners, as you can see. A lot of monitors, especially IPS, they have this, what they call the IPS glow, where you get that white light that pops in the corners. This monitor, I have to give it a great rating on that, because even on pitch black, I don't have any edgelit glowing. The MSI I have over here, that did have a little bit of, especially on the bottom right here, had that white light that showed through the black. Now I'm just going to boot up a game real quick just so you could see. Just going to boot up Gears real quick. I'm not going to play it or nothing like that because you guys ain't going to be able to see the frame rate. But now I will admit too that right out of the box, colors are extremely dull. You will have to go into the menu down here like I showed you to adjust it to your likings. Like I said, remember, keep that FreeSync on. Also, FreeSync does work perfectly with Xbox and PlayStation. So if you're going to run a console off of it, definitely keep it on. But I just found it better. I am sacrificing a little bit of response time. I'm getting about, when I put all my overlays on here and I'm testing frame rate and response time and all that good time, I was getting about 4. So keep that in mind. So while this puppy is booting up, take a look here. Here we go. Looks great. It fucking looks great. Now I know I'm recording this in 1080p, so. But what I wanted to say too was make most of your color adjustments in your control panel. If you have a NVIDIA graphics card, there is a vibrance section. Factory setting is 50. On my MSI, that was a pretty vibrant screen. The most I ran that was 60 to 65. This monitor I'm running at 75 because the colors were a little flat to me. I like a vibrant picture. I know some people like more of a realistic tone, so if you want realistic, knock it down. But, so yeah, just kind of wanted to show you guys that. You know, I'm not going to play any gameplay or anything. But yeah, that's it. So, like I said, keep in mind this is still a budget monitor. I know a lot of people were expecting these high expectations because of the name. It's like, oh hey, Samsung came out with a new Odyssey model. It doesn't hold a candle to the G7 or the G9. Keep that in mind. But it's a fraction of the cost. And at $260 to $290, would I buy this monitor again? Yes, I would. That's the conclusion. There's a lot of cons, but I keep looking back at the price. Damn, I paid $260 for it. $260 for it. If I paid $400 or $450, it definitely, at that price, I probably would have returned it and went with the LG monitor. I'm just saying. But at this price, I'm definitely getting what I paid for. I mean, I'm happy. I got the 1440p. I got the extreme curve. I got no ghosting, no tearing, no artifacting. Everything's smooth as shit. I love it. You guys can't see it because I'm not filming at 144 frames a second. But you kind of get the picture. That's it. So let me know if you guys have questions that I might have missed something on the monitor. I think I nailed everything, you know, DisplayPort 1.2, HDMI 2.0, HDR 600, but works with HDR 10 on the Xbox, 1440p, 1000R curved, does not recognize G-Sync, and if you guys have gotten yours to recognize G-Sync, please let me know how you did it, because I would love for it to be G-Sync compatible. But like I said, AMD FreeSync works fine, and I'm not getting any ghosting. I keep hearing people saying that there's this ghosting horribly, artifacting, the whole 9 yards. My thing is to you is turn that AMD FreeSync on and get it off the fastest setting. Get rid of that fastest setting. All that fastest setting is going to do is give you a 1 millisecond response time, and that response time is not G2G. So there's two different types of response times. There's gray to gray pixel response time. That's the good response time. And then there's motion picture response time. This has 1 millisecond motion picture response time. The G7, the G9 have a 1 millisecond gray to gray pixel response time, which is going to be even faster and more accurate. So keep that in mind too. But that's it, man. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit me up on Twitter. I'll have that link in the corner of the screen, probably like right here somewhere. And I'll catch you guys on the next one, man. Thanks for watching. Until then, peace and hair grease. Bye.